there's a certain frequency that people operate with, right? You need to operate in that frequency. If you're always out of frequency, how are you going to ever come in and build something fresh, right? Like, when I say this, it seems so obvious, but so many design teams or design leaders, to be very frank, aren't working towards understanding the business, right? So that's one part which you need to drive. If you think you are the only custodians of innovation, I'm sorry, it's not.
Yeah.
You're probably the last in some of these business realities.
Hey everyone, today I'm speaking with Srinath Rangamani, the head of design at Swiggy. Srinath has been the center of building Swiggy's product experiences that millions of us use every day. He leads one of the most influential design teams in the country, where design decisions directly shape how India eats and shops online. In this conversation, we go deep into a designer's and founder's relationship, the tough call leaders need to make to protect creativity, and the skills the next generation of design leaders must build. We also talk about AI and its impact on designers and what it takes to stay relevant, where design at Swiggy is headed in the next few years. With that, welcome to Behind the Screens Season 2, Srinath.
Thank you. Thanks, Drishti.
So let's get started. The first thing I really wanted to ask you about was, you're not out there a lot, so a lot of people don't know about your backstory. So can you tell us a little bit about like yourself and your backstory, and give us a little insider about who you've been before Swiggy?
Yep. Yeah. So first of all, thanks for inviting me. Thanks Pineapple Design Studio and Rohan and Drishti for inviting me. I as a young kid, I've always been fascinated by details as such, right? So I used to take my handwriting very seriously, right? That's where I think I began my design career, to be frank, to an extent that I was so obsessed with the details that I would write exactly 18 lines in an unruled sheet, right? And the obsession went to a level that I would lose marks because I couldn't complete my paper, right? If you're just always obsessed about just writing everything neatly, putting all the codes perfect, and doing all these things, you tend to lose out, the time, and pretty much, I was never worried about that fact, right? And frankly, I grew up with that mindset, right? Where God is in the details, design is in the details. So that's how I grew up. And I think when I approached my, college days, right? Just like everyone in India, pretty much, I wanted to do engineering and just, get on with engineering studies. But then halfway I realized that, okay, maybe engineering is for me, but tech engineering, tech design is more something that I wanted to do. So I self-taught myself into design by around second or third year. I started doing freelance, right? Those days, those were the web days. It was easier to get freelance outsourcing work.
Yeah.
So I pretty much started doing logo design.
Every designer.
Yeah, every designer starts with some form of logo design, brochure design. This college cultural poster design, etc.
Yeah.
That's how I began my design career.
Did you do it on CorelDRAW?
Yes, absolutely, right. Everyone begins with CorelDRAW and Photoshop 4.0 was one of those things.
Yeah.
So I started dabbling around that, and I figured out that, okay, this comes to me naturally, right? Because, the way I would produce stuff, I felt that, okay, there's none in the college that could do that. Yeah. So, of course, it's an engineering college, so they won't do that, right? So that really is an advantage for me. But besides that, I also knew something. There's some spark in me.
Yeah.
So so I just came out of college and I started doing, actually, yeah. So I joined a design agency in Chennai, and they were very kind enough to support me as an early designer without a design degree per se. And this is a web design agency. So that's my curiosity, right? What can I do here, right? I just like every other designer out there, I'm just joining and seeing, hey, design comes to me naturally. I think I can do stuff. Yeah. But then when I get in, and then the brutality of the business, everything comes in, I don't know, I was rendered useless within the first month or something, right? So I just want to understand, what do I do, right? And then I seek mentorship, and there were very kind people who actually helped me out in sort of helping my design competencies skill up, right? Within the first year or so, that was my breakthrough moment where I started shipping real websites, right? And this was designing the website, converting them into HTML, JavaScript. Those days you have to do everything.
Yeah, you have to be like a unicorn. You had no option.
You need to be a full stack, right? At least in the front end, you need to be a full stack designer where you design everything and then you convert that into HTML, CSS code, or do some JavaScript, and then eventually sort of put out the website. And I did around like 100 plus websites within the first 2-3 years, which became very foundational in terms of what kind of a designer I would become. I'm not suddenly a designer who's just doing, things because some team wanted it or this thing wanted it. It was actually for business, right? Like, and I could actually see the real impact of my work because I'm improving, my business is getting impacted. And eventually, that one built on another, and then eventually I land in a work which was for DreamWorks, right? So it's an outsourcing work that came for us. And then eventually, I did some work for DreamWorks, very fortunate, very fortunate to get that project in the first place. I learned a lot. I learned a ton in that project, but that gave me the visibility and, for my portfolio. And eventually I was hired at Adobe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Adobe kept a lot of faith. I really wanted to thank a lot of people back then, and my manager, Jaydeep Datta, was kind enough to basically hire me and mentor me as an early product designer in Adobe.
Yeah.
And then post that, I just, pretty much I thought, okay, now I need to probably progress in my career and do something new.
Yeah.
And I became a founding member of a company, founding designer of the company. So it began there, and then obviously, I mean, it's a startup. The startup was about fashion shopping. This is in 2012.
Which startup is this?
So this is a startup called StoreMate. So I was the initial designer, the founding designer of this startup.
Yeah.
It was only a very small team. We were just dabbling with some ideas, and obviously it failed miserably, I would say. Gloriously, right? Like, no, not miserably.
I think that's important. Like,
it's important to fail.
It's such an important part of your journey.
Yes, absolutely. I'm mentioning this because I consider this to be the most important breakthrough of not just my design career, but also that experience of being a founding member and embedding a founder mentality or a mindset.
Yeah.
That turned things around for me.
Yeah.
Because post that, I was not seen just as a designer.
Yeah.
Right? Suddenly, I was just seen in the industry as somebody who's like a founder, right? And so that made every difference. I learned a lot in that, and I was able to take that and apply everything that I had learned at Myntra, right? So when Myntra approached me, and I actually applied for head of design role at Myntra, one thing which was very clear that, okay, whatever that you've been doing in this social startup thing, why don't you come and do it here at Myntra?
Yeah.
Right? And it was very audacious because Myntra was very successful back then. It was going to get acquired by Flipkart. But here I am trying to reimagine the fashion experience, right? So, I mean, it speaks a lot about founders and founders' mindset.
Yeah.
They're always challenging the status quo. They want innovation at any cost.
Yeah.
Right? And pretty much that helped me sort of apply a lot of learning, design thinking, product thinking that I've got in my startup, which was around fashion shopping.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't think like any founder's knowledge goes to waste.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I think as a founder, you're always like a sponge absorbing things. You're always, it makes you, it makes you stronger always, right? So, and there's always directly applicable things, right? Like, as a founder, that when you're observing things. And for me, having that opportunity to sort of take something that I dreamt, right, but I couldn't do it, and come and do it here at scale at Myntra was just transformational, because it suddenly changed the way I thought and I operated. And because being a founder, you had to always, you now become a full stack company person, not just a full stack designer. Right? So that helped me sort of break through barriers, like, having an executive presence, right, having the leadership gravitas to go in and pull people towards the vision. That's something that I worked at Myntra, and eventually the work, when it came out, inspired a lot of this thing, and Swiggy happened, right? Like, and one of the founders of Swiggy again reached out and they said, okay, we like the work that you're doing at Myntra. Why don't you come and do something for food ordering? And that's where the story began. And here we are. I mean, it's almost like 8-9 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Swiggy, and I never thought it would be, I don't think they also thought that it would be this long, but it's been a great partnership and a great rewarding experience, both as a designer as well as a person, growing up at Swiggy.
Yeah. I mean, you've had such an amazing journey, and that's so cool. Like, you've gone I think you've experienced almost everything throughout your journey. And now, I mean, I wonder what next surprises are on your way.
Right.
But I think like one thing that I would want to know is that how, like, you're a designer at heart and an engineer also at the same time. How, like, when you moved from, each of these companies that were there, what convinced you every time when you were joining the company, not only just based like people coming to you and saying that, hey, you've done something for Myntra, why don't you like do something for us?
Right.
Did you find like yourself sometimes switching between being a designer and having that entrepreneurial mindset and like maybe somewhere losing a little bit of design as a core? Because as designers, our minds run wild.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
as entrepreneurs, you have to be so practical.
You need to be so practical.
So how did you make that decision and make those moves as you were progressing towards your career?
Right. So yeah, see, one part of it is, for me personally, I've always, got inspired by great design around me. But I've always felt sad about the fact that there is no good design in the Indian ecosystem. Back then, not now. Now I think we've gone way ahead. But back then, I've always dreamt of actually bringing that good design thinking, design philosophy into Indian products. That was my motivation to get into things, right? So when obviously, and I'm always excited about building. I always think I have a builder persona more than the designer persona.
Yeah.
Right? There's something about me where I can keep my heads down and just start building, and I can just lose time forever.
Yeah.
Right? So to me, those things excite me a lot, like building on a vision, right? Like, building something that I think that will just raise the bar for Indian products, right? So we can ship products, great products out of India to the global stage was one of the motivation with which I began with. So every conversation that I've had has been centered around these ethos, right? So I have a decision-making framework. If it falls within this, right? Like, if there's a great vision, if there's a great person or a set of people who are working on this vision and they dream of making it to the big stage, I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the motivation factor for me to sort of get into those conversations. And to me, it's not just about doing design only, right? Design is a happenstance for me, right? Like, is what I feel.
Yeah.
But to me, it's also about how do you use the design to build something big, right? How do you raise the bar? So that motivated in every single conversation that I've had. And that is the reason for just to be excited about a vision, an idea, to be able to just be curious about how explore, right? Like, engage, and to be able to have the ability to sort of manifest that into a reality, right? Augment that reality or manifest that reality. That's truly my excitement. That's where my dopamine comes from, I would say. And that's one of the reasons why I've always stuck to that. And if I could use my design sensibilities, design competencies to do whatever it takes to build a big company, build vision, then, that's what brings satisfaction.
That's amazing. Like, I think that you look at design like a platform or like just one plug that you can use to do everything else that you want to do. And having that visionary mindset, I think, is what's led you to make these amazing decisions and have like a very crazy, awesome career so far. When Swiggy approached you to join them, I'm sure at that point of time, you must have some thoughts in your head, like, should I not, will this work, will this not work? Like, what really convinced you that, okay, like, if I join them, we're going to do something big?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of credit has to go to all the three founders.
Yeah.
I mean, one part of it is Swiggy was obviously a very successful, they had raised a Series A, Series B, etc. But there's a backstory to this. One of the co-founders actually worked as a director of engineering in Myntra. So Rahul Jemini.
Yeah.
Right. So he always knew me. He's been like, before even leaving Myntra, he used to discuss ideas about just ordering, like tracking, etc. So I've always spiritually connected to Swiggy in some way or the other. Right. So that pulled me towards what they were doing, and obviously they were very successful, but I've never met anybody outside of Rahul back then.
Yeah.
And I think when Swiggy approached me, they were, and Harsha wanted to just have a chat with me. And Harsha is a very humble person, right? In the sense that I even doubted, like how can someone be this humble? To just give you an example, right? The first conversation, right, where Rahul said, why don't you just come? I think we're big enough for you to come in and join. We've raised a couple of rounds. We have good money, man. You should just come in and have a chat.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, why not? I mean, because I think it was almost 3 years at Myntra, and for me, what they were building was very exciting. Food ordering, like me, my family members, everyone were using it, and I was very curious about talking to Harsha. And when I approached him, Harsha was like, that's simple. He was on the streets delivering orders. He was just like, sipping a chai, and he's basically asking, hey, I mean, how are you? Why don't we talk about our vision? That really inspired me. I mean, like being a founder, very humble. He's very customer backed, but he's delivering orders on the road, and he's still finding time to meet people, pull the talent, get the right team on board. Really inspired me to just have a conversation, right?
Yeah.
And second co-founder was actually, I couldn't even meet him for a long time because he was always doing deliveries again.
Oh, wow.
So think about it, right? Like, there are two founders
who are just
super obsessed about this. And there's third co-founder, Rahul Jimny, who's always from morning to evening coding. And it just sounded like, it's a great place to even come in and build something.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because the obsession about the customer experience, the thinking about, making your product or your service work for customers, it was very clear. Right?
Yeah.
So that inspired me, and the vision that Harsha gave that day. Like, we sipped almost like 2-3 chais, I guess. And it went on, and the vision that he gave was grand. I mean, like, it wasn't about food delivery only.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I thought I'm going to design a food delivery app. and one of the exciting parts is having the judgment or the articulation to basically break it down.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, the first conversation was about food and food delivery plus. But the second or third conversation was always about like what's beyond food delivery. This is when we're talking about a time when food delivery itself wasn't sorted,
Yeah.
right? So you could see the range of thinking in the founder and the vision and what they wanted to build. And that really inspired me to say, okay, like, here's a group of people who have great vision, grand vision, who wants to make it to the big stage. And they have the thinking and the focus as well to get it done, right? Like, so that motivated me to join Swiggy more than anything else.
Yeah. How old were you when you joined Swiggy?
So yeah, I think it was around 31, 32.
Yeah, right?
Perfect time. Yeah.
I'm like 32. So I'm like, how did you feel like at that point of time, like being a 32-year-old and be like, okay, what if like this company is going to blow up and I am the person who's going to lead the design team? Like, were you scared? Did you feel like you could like probably really build something larger, meet the expectations of how the founders are thinking? Like at that point of time, what was your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, back then, I don't think we...
You were not scared.
Both the Swiggy co-founders who talked to me never had the pressure of building something big. In retrospect, you feel that it's big.
Yeah.
But back then, it was for the fun of doing things. It was fun of creation, craft, right? Like, on obsession, customer obsession. In fact, even today, we don't know how we made it big. Right? So,
wow.
Yeah, exactly. It's right. Like, so frankly speaking, I don't know. I was just excited about the opportunity. I was excited about the people, right? And I truly wanted to build something magical. And I felt that this is the right group of people to hang out with, right? And build my curiosity, right? And my imagination, right? So that's what we never thought we'll become big. And I never thought I'll lead this bigger design team or this bigger company, into the future. And this all happened. And if you ask Harsha, Mr. Harsha, or or even Mr. Nandan for that fact, they would be very frank in this by saying they never thought they will make it big. And that's probably the secret. Because like when you're starting out, you have to keep your
head down.
Head down and focus on the right things rather than focusing on outcomes, right? You focus on the impact, right? Like, so
absolutely.
That's pretty much what I would say. And for me, I never thought about leading big design teams, etc. It was all about like doing great design, even if as an individual contributor, right? If I had to do that, I might as well done that because the opportunity was exciting.
Yeah.
People were great to work with, and the space, the medium in which we were working, right? It was really good. So to me, that probably was the motivator.
So Srinath, you've been working with founders for over 2 decades. What do founders start expecting from their design leaders?
Great question. The The answer is a little bit different for different stage companies. Because I worked in an early stage, growth stage, as well as at scale, I can throw some light into what people expect at different stage. Obviously, in the 0 to 1 early stage sort of a startup, right? The founder's expectation is very simple, right? Like speed. The faster you can actually design, the faster you can put out things out there.
Oh, yeah.
The faster is the exploration and discovery, right? Because what founders are obsessed about is figuring out a product market fit, right? PMF, as we call it today. But it's all about figuring out whether this is the right product that we are first designing, right?
Yeah.
So obviously a design leader's role is about understanding what the founder's vision is, probably taking a early snapshot of what that vision and what the market wants, and trying to retrofit continuously in multiple different ways to figure out the fit that we are actually looking for. It may be, obviously, you're tasked with actually building the early versions of the brand, right? Early versions of the app, product, etc. But it's also important to figure out the right fit of features that will, I'm just talking from a digital product design angle because that's where my experience lies.
Of course,
But I think it's also about figuring out the right features that will make sense for the users, right? And for the business. So for early stage companies, it is about understanding that vision, picking out parts of the vision that will help us validate that idea quickly. Going really fast, right? Like you break barriers, go really fast to the market and ship, iterate, and figure out what the fit is, right? So figuring out the fit is pretty much what the founders need help with from a design leader.
And that must have been pretty tough, right? Because a lot of times I feel like leaders tend to, or not only leaders, just designers, that little designer inside of you always want to tend to prove that what you're creating will work or what you're making should be out there, or like you want to like sort of experiment. How did you, it sounds almost like you detached that identity while you were working with your founders, because it's a fail fast, learn fast zone that you're in. How did you manage to do that as a leader? Because also to add to that, it's like a 2-part question. The second part is that your design team is also feeling the same way. And they're expecting the leader to, go like, let's experiment this. But at that point in time, you can't do that. So what I'm basically summarizing, what I'm trying to ask you is that how did you manage to, detach the identity of a designer versus a design leader and really read between the lines of what your founders need and just get that done?
Yeah, absolutely. See, if there is no product market fit, there is no team, there is no company, there's nothing. So one thing that design leader, when they are coming in, obviously when you're coming in as a design leader in an early stage company, you already have the maturity to understand that this is not about you or your design. It is about the company and the company's vision and the company's design now. So that's a pivot that in mindset that a design leader need to have, right? And worst of all, many design leaders won't even have a team in an early stage company. They have to do it themselves. So, even for Swiggy, I was like the 4th person to join. There are only 3 designers. So you can imagine the amount of heavy lifting that you have to do. But again, it's a mindset thing. We'll talk about it probably in detail. But to me, it's about the mindset. It's about understanding what the founder wants and also having the maturity to basically have an understanding that, hey, first, let's figure out what this product is all about. Discovery is more important. Detailing is not. Right? It is about getting interested in how far you are into your exploration and discovery. What are you digging out of it? How thorough are you in understanding of the customer and the market? So that's probably the reward for you more than the detail itself, right? So I think understanding that part will help you sort of progress and perform with founders at a much deeper level, right? Because suddenly it's a mind melt, right? It's basically people coming together to figure out if this thing will even survive. It's a survival of the fittest, and the faster you fail, and if there is fear of failure, I think it's gone, right? Like you tend to overthink some of these details, make things work inorganically only when you have the fear. But if you let go of the fear, right? If you're having fun and basically saying, okay, let's just put it out there. Let's put it in 5 different ways, 10 different ways in which things could work. suddenly things change, right? And for the teams as well, right? It's a great question. The second part of the question is basically an evolution where if you're successful about this, then you get to go and experiment many different things, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the company also moves from an early stage to probably a growth stage.
Yeah.
And at growth, right? With great power comes great responsibility,
Yeah.
right? And with growth, I mean, it comes with great gravitas, right? Is what I would put it, right? I know it sucks you up sometimes.
Yeah.
Because at one part, you actually now found the fit. Your customers are loving it. But then what works for an early stage company doesn't work for the growth stage company.
Yeah.
Suddenly now you have to mature as a brand, right? Mature as a product. So a design leader's focus is not just about doing what they did before, right? Now they have to stabilize things. You have to start designing systems. You have to start designing product features and take it to a mature stage.
Yeah.
What worked for 1.0 may not work for 2.0 or 3.0.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And literally in that sense, right? Because under the hood, you're making a ton of changes.
Yeah.
Your customers are evolving, right? And what founders are looking for is now there's a group of customers, there's an early adopter. Now you have a lot of customers and their needs and preferences tend to evolve, right? The company has to start servicing a larger customer base. So obviously, one part of it is about building that brand, building that product. That becomes an important responsibility for a design leader.
Yeah.
But the second part is also about now figuring out new category bets because you have to grow, right? The harsh reality is now you have more customers. So you have to be innovative about reaching some of these customers, putting out the right product. So your innovation pipeline has to keep going, right?
Oh my
your
gosh.
execution pipeline has to be really good.
Yeah.
And you're executing at a detail now that is constantly sort of evolving, growing, maturing.
Yeah.
Right? So as a design leader, you have to now be in constant dialogue, right? With not just founders. Now you're actually cross-functionally talking to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? There's suddenly a big marketing team who's coming and saying, oh, we need this growth idea to be going into the product in the next 1 month. Right?
You're back to your finance break.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you have a design. Now you have an engineering team which is not suddenly a 50-60 member team, probably 100-150 member team. That puts a lot of pressure on the release train. Suddenly there are product managers coming up and there are some 20 product managers who are after your life. So as a design leader and as a design team, right, obviously having clarity about this growth, right? What is this growth about? What is the market about? Who are the customers? Are they evolving? Have they widened? The customer group has widened or not? You need to have clarity about some of those things.
Yeah.
Being highly customer centric at this stage.
Yeah.
So you truly understand what the customer's needs and wants are. And what are the different types of customers that we are catering to? Because remember, it's not like an early stage startup where you have a set of customers and early adopters who are seeing a sparkle and basically saying, I want to use this product alone.
Yeah.
Now there are competitors coming in because the growth stage, everybody is buying for the market. So that part of it. And then there is product innovation, product roadmap that is going.
Yeah.
And you have to deliver on design excellence as well, because you are expected to first maintain the design standards that you had set for an early stage, not piss off some of the customers that that got at an early stage, still build that up and acquire new customers. So it's just responsibility building up. So it is about deeper engagement at every level. Now design is not just an organization which is just working on UX, UI. You're suddenly now working with marketing teams, business teams, engineering teams to see how you can build the design capability inside the organization.
Yeah, when you were explaining this, I was wondering that you said it feels like everything was so smooth.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no. That is so much going on. While it might look like everything was smooth, it was not. Which is why I'm wondering that, when you were talking about everyone's expectations around you, have there been certain, incorrect expectations or expectations that don't make sense that your founders come to you with and that you've tried to solve for? It can't all be smooth and amazing. So
Yeah, absolutely. See, it happens in a growth stage company for sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say founders, but there are some incorrect expectations of what design can do.
Mm-hmm.
like design cannot fix world problems, right? so I just obviously exaggerated this a little bit, but I think some of the incorrect expectations is if there is not a product market fit, it cannot be solved with just design details, right? Design fixes.
Yep.
So obviously design is a great catalyst, right? And it has the responsibility to sort of, get the attention of the user, promote a product, and sort of motivate them to use the product more.
Yeah.
But the bug doesn't stop there, right? So it has to sort of, an organization should also have supporting mechanisms to ensure that the design doesn't fail, right? And actually having a very superficial view at what design does, right? Which is like, oh, let's have great copy. Let's have a great marketing image. Let's build out this feature with a fancy interaction. All these things are great catalysts, right? But eventually, if they're not supported by great systems, products, services on the ground, it fails, right? So this is an expectation that others in the organization have to build about what a design group can or cannot do. And they certainly cannot fix your gaps in probably product or service or strategy, right?
I love it. I love the fact that just means, I think that changes my mindset so much about design, because that means that design is not a destination, it's a catalyst.
Yes.
And it's always going to keep doing that as its role in order to help everything else reach its destination.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
That nicely leads us into what's the expectation for a large organization, right?
Yeah.
Where design is moving now from a catalyst role into a differentiator role.
Yeah.
Right? So big organizations, right? Design teams, design leaders in big organizations are expected to bring differentiation. Because now the company is growing and it's big. It's got multiple competitors. It's not just got one competitor where you're dealing with in a small market or probably in a scale stage. Now your design teams, right? All your design thinking capability should be maturing at a level where you are now bringing competitive differentiation for the company. And this leads us to think what do design teams in big organizations do? They work exactly on this, right? First is, of course, you built a great system at scale. Now you are able to take that and deliver products at great speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
But with the craft and the excellence that you've built over a period of time, and be able to deliver
and be functional.
Yeah, and be functional as well. And that's a great responsibility to have, right? Because that's what the all of the work that you have done at the scale stage is helping you now, right?
Yeah.
It's helping you leverage some of the systems that you have built, some of the teams that you have built, right? You've got tough characters in the team over a period of time, right? Somebody who's like a creator, somebody who's a fighter, somebody who's just coming in and basically just taking this whole stage. They can take you to a global scene. How do you put that to use and actually take your design global, right? That's pretty much what, design teams or design leaders in the big organizations sort of obsess about. And it is all about making sure that design is now a differentiator.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Tell me about this. You've built a design team for years now with Swiggy. At the beginning, what were some of the critical design personalities that you wanted in your design team that would help you guys make it into the next stage?
Right. See, first, in an early stage company, it's very difficult to attract top talent.
Yeah.
Right. And so you need some people who are with the same mindset or mentality as you. Right? Obviously, founder mentality plays a big role, right? Absolutely. You join the company because you believe in that vision, you believe in the founders. You need similar mindset people to come in, right? They should be excited about the idea, the space, the technology that we work in.
Yeah.
And so they should be willing to just contribute almost like founding designers, right? So that's very critical you have to be extremely intentful in terms of how you pick the early design team, because that's going to define the design culture in the next stages of growth. And by the way, I mentioned about the design, this thing, right? One of the big responsibilities of being a design leader in a late stage company is maintaining the design culture, right? And making sure that you embed the design culture deeper and deeper into the organization, right? And who's doing that? It's your design team.
Yeah.
So you got to have a vision of basically picking the right people who are obsessed about problem solving, who are obsessed about building a certain vision, who are excited about, who are like, basically they're just owners or drivers, not passengers. That's a brilliant way to put it, right? You need drivers, designers who are drivers in the organization who should be joining your team, right? Because if you're a passenger, you're going to be run over somewhere, right? Like, and your design team is not as impactful as it used to be. So one of the qualities that I look for is basically if the designer is driven, right? Like, and it's very different from motivation in the sense that motivation can be intrinsic and extrinsic, and people can get motivated by different factors. But if you're fundamentally driven, right? Driven by a certain cause or a purpose or a vision, then the kind of modalities that you operate is very different, right? Suddenly you don't require, you have the discipline to do stuff. You don't require motivation to do stuff.
Yeah.
That's the kind of designers that I'm looking at. You need designers who can come in and basically say, I know the problem, and I have the solution as well. And I'm disciplined enough to go through the problem, right? Multiple times, find a solution, take ownership, find a solution.
Figure it out.
Just figure it out, right? Like, and pretty much that's more important quality for me more than the design competency itself, right? And obviously this slightly matures as you go into but it remains the most important factor of how a certain small teams, right? Like, today we see a lot of Indian startups where if I just talk about and they just have 3-4 member design team, and they're like, if you see the glue, right? Like, it is all about just making sure that you have people who are driven, right? Like, and who obsess about those details. Those are the two things that I look for in sort of building the team managers or leaders, and overall the team culture.
Yeah. Feel like you should just be like a perfectionist and OCD pehle se only. Then you will I think that is the thing, the most important skill set more than your hard skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like obsess over the details.
Yes, absolutely. It's not just details come later.
Yeah.
But if you're not driven, you don't tend to listen. You don't tend to convince.
Yes.
You're not tuned into what people want, what people expect out of me. Then there's a certain frequency that people operate with, right? Like, those ideas need to, right? You need to operate in that frequency. If you're always out of frequency, how are you going to ever come in and build something fresh, right? Like, with us, you're always going to complain that things don't come to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm being told. Of course, you're being told because you operate that way.
Yeah.
You've never asked. You've never pulled. So you'll always be pushed.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah,
So we have 3 founders at Swiggy, and they all might have different expectations from you. What are some of the core expectations that they've had from you as a design leader? Do all 3 people expect different things?
Yeah.
And you're like, incoming.
Actually, yeah.
So along with all different teams expecting different things, I have 3 founders who have also been expecting different things from you.
Yeah, I wish I would say they have no expectations, but it's never the case.
Yeah.
Different founders expect different things, I would say. And that's the strength of the company overall.
Yeah.
Like, for example, at Myntra, right? Mukesh's expectation from the product and design teams, he obsessed about the kind of clarity that he can bring to teams, right? Not just design teams, design product. Back then when we were building, I was in fewer meetings with him because he was already at Flipkart, etc.
Yeah.
But there was a moment in time where we had just put out the first version of the mobile app. Imagine this is 2013, right? And it was fairly successful.
Yeah.
And then Mukesh comes into a meeting. Secretly, we were obsessing in terms of what's the next design product roadmap going to be. And we were forming some thoughts around content and social, etc. But then Mukesh comes into this meeting with so much clarity, and he basically puts down a manifesto, right? He just puts it on the table and he says, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And to me, I was just blown away at that moment because, like, in a world where, people are always
Orally telling their
telling
needs.
this and expecting things from you.
Yeah.
Like, here's a person who knows that, okay, the team would also be expecting clarity,
Yeah.
right? And there was this leadership gravitas to basically own that up, take it up, and basically put it out there. And the manifesto, I don't know, many people may read it differently, but it was a great catalyst for a designer, right, like me, and the product teams, because from the manifesto, we could clearly now understand the vision of the leader, right? So what the founders are expecting, right? They have a vision. They're articulating that vision. They want you to sort of expand on that vision, right? So they are the keeper of the vision of sorts. You are the builder of the vision, right? So it's very hard for people to imagine certain ideas until they experience it in some form of reality, right? And there's so much lost in that translation, right? And this is where design teams or great designers come in.
Yeah.
They take that vision, right? And now start to build that vision, right, into different snapshots of a product or a customer experience, right? Now, this is great fun in actually doing this because you take a vision which is very superficial, right? Like, it's very
not realistic.
It's not realistic.
When you're starting to build it.
Yeah, it's not starting. When you're articulating also, it's not realistic.
Yeah.
But somehow teams have to make sense of it.
Yeah.
You have to move towards that reality.
Yeah.
There are two ways of doing it. Amazonian way is basically by building documents after documents, thoughts. If you've read the Amazonian way or other Amazon related books, it's a great way. It's thought leadership, right? Which you build this.
Yeah.
Apple's way is by building with prototypes, visioning, etc. Fortunately for me, both at Myntra as well as at Swiggy, it's been the Apple way.
Yeah.
Right? Where basically founders put down a certain reality, or a vision.
Yeah.
And pretty much my job has to just go in and understand that vision at the core, the deep meaning of what they really want. What do they want? What's the customer gap that they are trying to fix? What's the product or service that they're trying to deliver? And what's an experience that can build that gap, right?
Yeah.
So there's so much fun in basically taking that idea from being very superficial, and you now start adding snapshots after snapshots of that reality and making it very granular to a level that people are now making sense of what that vision could be.
Yeah.
Right? It's 2 years out.
Yeah.
Right? You are dreaming about a certain thing, but then you're also discovering, right? You are navigating that dream, you're trying to put it out into different aspects, and then eventually you're discovering, and now suddenly everybody can start believing in because they can see it as a reality.
Yeah.
So then the dream starts to manifest, right? To me, personally, I felt both with Myntra as well as with Swiggy, that is my biggest contribution. That is my biggest leverage or my team's leverage.
Yeah.
And to ensuring that, okay, if there is a vision or an idea, right, and there is a gap to that reality, what can design teams do to build that vision?
Yeah.
To deliver on that vision, by building ideas, snapshots of how the product experience could look like in different scenarios. I mean, Steve Jobs put it beautifully, right? In the sense that design is not about figuring out doing 5,000 different things. It's about doing one thing in 5,000 different ways. I mean, it speaks a lot about...
Wow. That's
right?
like
Speaks
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. Like, it speaks a lot about the obsession that you should carry about not putting a lot of things out there. It's not about volume, right?
It's about the experiments.
It's about the vision, right?
Yeah.
It's about figuring out one thing that will strike really well and figuring out 5,000 different things in which it can fail,
Yeah.
and eventually picking that one thing, right? And so that's very important, right? To me, that is the, manifesto that I've been delivering to.
Yeah.
But yeah, different founders work differently. I mean, of course, one founder is always obsessed about differentiation, competitive differentiation, right? 2 years out, how are we going to look like? Because that probably they are looking at it from a product strategy level, right?
Yeah.
Because once you have a 1 or 2 year vision, it becomes very easy for founders to obsess, to manifest, and move teams around to build that vision.
Yeah.
Right? You can literally say, okay, here are 4 things that we need to validate. we will probably test some of these ideas. We will build the product strategy around this, a roadmap around this, and then eventually build on the vision a certain way, right? Other founders probably are over obsessed about brand building or excellence, etc. Right? So they're very worried about how you are actually projecting the company out in a product, right? Like what aspects of details that go into actually delivering that value for customers, right? And how do you build customer loyalty and retention through that, right? So you're working with that founder on those kind of things, right?
Yeah.
There's another founder who's always taking category bets. They never stop, right? Like they're always obsessing about what's next, what's the next adjacent category that I get into, right? Obviously, every product is going to expand, every company is going to expand. So constantly figuring out what are the future bets that will keep the company relevant, right? So they are working on that. Right, so if you have 3 different founders who are obsessed about all 3 details, then have fun.
Oh my gosh, is that how it is at Swiggy? Like
it is. It is
like, oh my god,
level.
like Harsha and Rahul, like all of them, like that
Yes.
was like all of them think they have different styles of thinking.
Absolutely, yeah, right? Like and what's a common thread across all of these people? Whether it is with Mukesh Patel, and I worked very briefly with Sachin as well from Flipkart, and as well as with Swiggy's folks, is the clarity with which they operate. They almost believe in that vision, almost like to a level that, okay, it feels like reality. And that gives a lot of clarity to teams as well, right? To internalize that vision, to start working on the vision, to manifest that, right? So that's expectation from design team is one part, but also expectation from the founder is also to deliver that, to articulate that vision. Very important that you are able to translate that into details, right? And something that can inspire the teams to look beyond the obvious, that can translate what you are thinking, right? Like, into actually abstract forms of concepts that people can take and start working on. It's very important, right? Because when you're putting out a vision, you're all constantly harping on the fact that, oh, there's a customer, there's a gap, there's a market, and what's the data? All that is good, but if you just don't zoom out and actually articulate what you really want, why you are trying to do what you do, and how we do it won't come, right? This is the Simon Sinek's, right? Like it's classic, why, what, how. And great founders operate in the why, right? And their expectation is to understand the why. And anything and everything that you do to mobilize the why, which is understanding customers, customer mindsets, customer needs, different types of customer, backward sort of need states, will help. That's the core expectation, in my opinion, from whatever that I've engaged with
Experienced, people. Have you built a long-term vision with the founders at Swiggy, like thinking 2 to 3 years ahead?
Yeah, both at Myntra and Swiggy, I had the privilege to build long-term vision. Long-term, this is really long-term, like 2 years out. At Myntra, I think I talked about my experience of, building a vision for Mukesh. I mean, so back then we were doing only commerce, and it was going good. But I think the founder had my mindset to basically shake things up and build something big. And we weren't seeing that experience as just a commercial transactional experience, because fashion shopping isn't just about just going and figuring out the discount or applying some filters and shopping. It is more inspirational. So part of content needs to come in, and it's more social, right? You get inspired from other celebrities, brands, etc. So social shopping has to come in. So we had to put out a vision of how do we bring this commerce plus content plus community aspects into a product, right? What kind of products to build? What are the features to build even, right? And what would that experience look like? Shopping experience look like? And that's one part which I helped in translation. And this was almost like 1 year out, right? And then 1 or 2 years out maybe, right? And we still keep dabbling with some of these ideas. But I think it was a very important point in time that we did that, because when Mukesh gave that manifesto and he said, this is what I want to build, I clearly see through that, right? Like, and I was like, okay, maybe we need to build parts of commerce where people can come in and get inspired through content. We were already producing a lot of content back then. Pieces of that was always getting done. This is the one important part, right? I mean, if you are in a growth stage company or a big stage company, founders are already obsessing about it. They're already building, experimenting with certain parts. Now, you as a designer, are you observing some of those things? Are you reading into some of the intentions and helping sort of pull some of these things into a larger vision, right? Like, and you have to constantly be at it, right?
Yeah.
Like, in terms of taking some of those things, applying it in a different context and helping a long-term vision. Obviously, the crux of founder mentality or founder thinking is pretty much long-term thinking.
Yeah.
They're always obsessed about the long term, and a designer's core job isn't just about solving the here and now, but it's also about building that long-term thing. And at Swiggy as well, right? Like, I've been very fortunate to work 2 times actually, right? Like, and just it's kind of funny. I tell the story because I think we were going through a lot of growth. What growth stage companies go through is like new products getting added. Instamart wasn't even born back then, but there were multiple experiments which were done by Swiggy at that point in time. Like before Instamart, there were like 3 different experiments around grocery itself, right?
Yeah.
Not many people know this, but I think COVID basically gave us the motivation to go and actually do something like Instamart. But before that, we had done similar experiments, right?
Yeah, this is exactly the point. Like, let's say you build a vision for like 2 years,
Right.
and then something like COVID happens.
Yeah.
How do you
Exactly.
know?
Exactly. No, actually, for us, it worked the other way around. So just before COVID, right, like we had actually worked on a very exciting vision of Swiggy, which is beyond just food ordering. We had, it was so crystal clear that I could not even believe it. When I go back to the prototype, I see, we have already built 60-70% of it. But I think the company always had the vision to do something around grocery delivery, maybe not in the exact way, like quick commerce as it turned out to be, but we always had that vision, right? So we had always imagined a product which is not just food ordering, but also food plus grocery, plus probably even bike taxi, plus, dining out. So all this were imagined just before COVID, just 2 months, 3 months before COVID. And we said, this is an exciting vision. We should do this. Obviously, during COVID, everything fell apart. We had to tear the whole thing down and understand what it is.
Yeah.
But it helped us anchor on to what we eventually wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right? So we picked certain parts of the vision. For example, on food delivery, right? Like, and grocery delivery, obviously. Because we did that vision, it was very easy for us to continue to innovate even during tough times. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the constant priority was to ensure that there is business, right? Like continuity, right? Like, so we were building features and other things just centered around COVID and COVID-related experiences. But we could also have one eye on long-term visioning in terms of what we wanted to build, because we had the leverage to basically go and do that as well.
Yeah.
It was all because we had that vision as a reference point. So you have a snapshot in time, you can just go back and say, remember how we thought about this? Can we think this in different ways and actually build this here?
And adapt it.
So and adapt it, right? Like, so the vision, once you have a certain thing where you augment it and keep it in the form of some kind of a vision prototype or something like that, it helps you adapt it to certain situations where you're constantly under pressure, right? Imagine in a COVID time, like, where you are figuring out business continuity. There's no business to actually do, to be very frank. We went from like some million orders to 0 orders in no time, right? Yeah. So, like everybody is trying to figure out what things are. And here you are, but that gives us clarity also sometimes, right? In terms of what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
But having that vision also helped us go back and anchor on the core beliefs, the core product that we wanted to build, and see which part should we just take probably and adapt it here. This is a good way to just do this. Or which are the parts that we start building for the future as well. The world is not going to be like this forever, right? You have to be constantly relevant and constantly innovating. So that's, if in your peacetime, you can do this. There's no peacetime per se, but then you'll always have to find a time. So many people keep asking about, where do you get the time to actually build a vision? There's no good time. If you're always obsessing, if you're intentful, then you will find the time to do it, right? But there will be some peacetime in which you think that, okay, maybe I have to take this time out because it's very important. Not probably urgent to do it, but it's very important for me to do this. So you, in your peacetime, start building the vision, because it'll help you in that wartime, right? Where you don't have to, you're constantly running, you're pretty much figuring out what your next thing is. Here's basically an anchor point for you to just go back and say, okay, maybe can we pick something from this, or should we just build this?
I think that's absolutely important. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of design leaders might feel panicky when you're not always in a war zone. And I think like when you get those moments of breaks, or even to think like COVID could possibly be that moment of peacetime, where you could think ahead or reiterate or, really find that grounding is equally as important as always being like productive and like removing things like constantly
Exactly.
all the time. So that's
Exactly. Actually, yeah. See, I mean, I also want to clarify this, that this is not relevant for probably early stage companies. When I go to meetups, I get asked about this question a lot.
Yeah.
And I want to say, I mean, when you're having a team of 2-3 people, you're figuring out the product market fit, this is not the right time to do this.
Yeah.
Right. I think you should obsess about this when you start having, when you're actually in the growth stage, when you have the leverage of having 6 to 7 designers is when the right time to actually start doing this, right? Because then you've done the product market fit, you have the right team as well to sort of deliver on the here and now, where you can also as a leader start obsessing about some of the things. But it's a criminal act not to do it in a large company.
Yeah. And you're always panicking when you have 20, 30, 40 or 50 designers because like you mentioned, you have like 50 developers and you have 60 designers and then you have and you are always constantly filling that cycle. Like one thing I always hear a lot of clients or companies who do have large design teams and large dev teams are always like, I can't stop the cycle.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, where do you find your peace time?
No, I mean, if you have 20, 30 designers, you already have enough.
Yeah.
Right. At that point in time, it's a luxury, right? And it's imperative that having that big a design org, you need to create an impact.
Yeah.
And the impact is only going to come from thinking long term. And as a leader, you have to figure out how to navigate this responsibility, when to pull the chain and when to ask this question of, are we doing enough as a team?
Yeah.
Right? Should we take some time out and do something different? Right? Time out or whatever other things. Maybe don't read into the words too much.
No, absolutely.
It is about that.
You need to take time out. You need to reset your mindset.
You need to reset. You need to think beyond, the immediate work and see for delivering oversized impact. If you have to become a force multiplier in an organization, right? You have a team of 20, 30 designers. That's a ton of nuclear power, I would say, right? To build any big company that you want. Most big design teams, what's Apple's design team size? Right?
Yeah.
So it's nothing. Airbnb is less than 100 people. Apple is less than 50 people is what I hear. So think about, right? It's not about the number of people and yet you have a lot of people and don't do anything about it. Is actually irresponsible in some way, right? And that's why I think when you have the leverage of a larger design team, you have to become a force multiplier.
Absolutely. So tell me something, while, you were a designer at one point of time and you have led a huge team also, how do you leverage or how do you help designers understand that how can they be better with business teams, with their conversation or with their connection with business teams?
Yes, to start with, I think there are usual things, right? Which is the business orientation, business understanding and business impact.
Yeah.
There is some truth to the fact that, if you orient towards what the business needs, not just the customer needs, you have a better understanding of who the people that you are working with, what are they intending to do. Yeah. And that's very important because orienting is very important, alignment is not. Right? So I just want to be very clear in the differentiation because, too many designers tend to obsess about business alignment. So when you're seeking an alignment, you're already aligned and you're just now getting biased into what business wants.
Yeah.
Orienting towards business outcomes, business responsibilities is helpful because it helps you take a third person or second person view at what this group of team is looking to build. What do they want? What kind of business reality that exists? Yeah. So you develop first some empathy towards what business people are going through.
Yeah.
Right? Some of the harsh realities of Swiggy's business is figuring out the city dynamics, the demographics, the kind of people that we are targeting, and even infrastructure. Some of it is getting solved, and it's a very thankless job what the business or city teams are doing in Swiggy. Yeah. Because here you are building a product and you're trying to fit that experience into different cities, cultures, etc. But then they're dealing with so many dynamics. Once you tend to understand and orient yourself towards that, then you can take that as inputs into your design process. Best is you can build alliance, right? With those business partners to say, here's what you are facing. Here's a business design competency that can directly help with. For example, a communication or a nudge or a behavioral sort of a comms that you can deliver to deliver that impact. Is it useful? You can have that dialogue and basically determine if that is the right fit for the kind of business impact that they're looking for.
Yeah.
So it helps you build an alliance with a business partner, because now you're orienting, you're empathizing, and you are driving inputs actively, both from design towards business as well as business towards design. You are allowing yourself to partner because now you are operating at a certain base, right? From a base of understanding of what my competency is, what your competency is, and now it becomes our merged solution. So that's what it helps with. So second is business understanding. I don't want to dwell too much into that, but the obvious things, right? Which is actually, are you understanding what the core business is? Are you understanding the market and its customers, what business teams are driving, etc.? I mean, I say this, it seems so obvious, but so many design teams or design leaders, to be very frank, aren't working towards understanding the business, right? So that's one part which you need to drive. Do it in your own way. There are various ways in which you can do, through immersions, through interactions with business folks, and there's no set activities that business does, right? Some of it is in the form of a document, some of this is just interactions with customers, etc., and some of it is just pretty much in the form of numbers.
Yeah.
When you have access to all three things as a designer or a design team, just go over that and understand and piece it the way that you want to. So that's business understanding. The third one is obviously the hotly debated, which is, should designers, impact be tied to a business impact?
Yeah.
There is some merit, I would say, although I haven't seen a big tangible merit, but there is some merit in terms of tying a business impact through a design process.
Yeah.
And because it becomes measurable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Second, you also tend to learn faster that way through feedback and through data, etc. So that's one aspect of things that design leaders should work on. But beyond this, I have one thing that I feel that design leaders especially should work on, right? And this is nothing to do with probably some of the business competencies. It is to do with design competency as such, which is ability to think big and differentiate.
Right.
Every business team, what are they trying to do, right? Obviously they are trying to bring numbers in an Excel sheet. You really think that's their output?
Yeah.
Right? So absolutely no, right? What they're trying to do is to bring outsized impact, right? And for that, they always are on the ground, right? Innovating, inventing, right? And if you think you are the only custodians of innovation, I'm sorry, it's not.
Yeah.
You're probably the last. In some of these business realities, of course, in a tech-only, product-only business, probably you're the first, right? Who's leading that. But when today's companies, right, they tend to be more omnipresent, right? So if you're working in a company which involves products and services that cuts across beyond technology, or maybe cuts across technology or beyond technology, then the fact of the matter is their business realities are constantly evolving, changing, and they are expecting differentiation, right? And so building that think big mindset, right, or a growth mindset, as what Satya Nadella calls, is very important. It's key to actually unlocking that.
Yeah.
So what does that mean, right? How do you think big, right? And your number one goal or a competency to develop is basically how to bring competitive differentiation. Business is always competitive, they're cutthroat.
Yeah.
They're always imagining, how do I get past competition?
Yeah.
So what's a good way to do that? Maybe you can't make numbers work or supply work, etc., but you can bring a differentiation through design. So for one of the competencies that design leaders must develop is to think big. Think big business realities, right? And to be able to help on the differentiation with respect to competition.
Yeah.
Now, so on the think big, right? One of the examples that I want to highlight at Swiggy is how we innovated on the merchandising of topical events or themes of festivals, right?
Yeah.
So a couple of years before on Instamart, it used to be a very functional app. Obviously, business wanted to bring in more repeats. Customers need to come more, but what would make them come more to the app beyond just your regular milk, bread, and eggs, right? So that was a pertinent question, and we noticed some patterns, right? That during the festival times, people open the app far more than once or twice, and it was very intriguing. Why would people open up an app like Swiggy when Chandrayaan landed on the moon, right?
Yeah.
Like, they would probably open up. Yeah, of course. I mean, this happened like, and we were like quite curious about the fact that what is leading to some of these things,
Yeah.
right? And what we figured out is, during some of the festivals, right? Like, when we put out some curated collection or selection out there for the customers, it was very easy for them to find. Besides that, it also created a bit of a halo, right? Like, in a sense, we've all been growing up with Amul's,
Yeah.
right? Like, Amul girl.
Amul's
thing.
ad
Yeah, ads,
everywhere
everything,
all
right?
the time. Yeah.
Every theme, every topic, they're out there.
Exactly.
So we took some inspiration and we said, can we not celebrate things beyond just festivals or other things? People anyway come to our app every day.
Yeah.
And why can't we greet? It started by saying, okay, can we increase the delight element, right, of basically greeting them on a certain day, like a Father's Day or a Mother's Day or something. And obviously there is business element to that where you can now start putting out gifts, etc. This is how it started. And many people don't know back then you didn't have those elements, right? Merchandising elements. So that's a framework that we innovated. I can proudly say that.
Yeah.
Where we were the first ones to just say, okay, here's a topic of interest for the user. And when they open the app, what if it is very relevant and contextual to that day, that time, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like, opening the app when Chandrayaan, landed on the moon, we had a selection to celebrate, right? And people started responding to that. And pretty much it became a factor of differentiation from customers. And now it's a norm, right? Like, the whole industry, every app that you see, it sort of follows that. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But that's where I think big comes from, right? Is also thinking about what is the big differentiator that design can bring beyond just design capabilities like design systems or, UX, UI, etc. Right? So if you don't have the business orientation or business understanding, you would have still got there, but the time taken would have been like
much longer
compared to like if you had, because I had the business orientation, because our teams also had, and they were also giving inputs back. They wanted to experiment with this and say, okay, why can't we do something like this?
Yeah.
And we tested for smaller festivals, smaller topics, and that led on to a big differentiating factor.
I think that was a game changer when I also saw it, honestly, on Swiggy. I noticed it during Ganpati, and I was like, we know that we're going to order 10 times, 10 different things on the app. And right there, the recommendations were there. I feel like it changed the game a lot because it wasn't just based on my recommendations of like what I've purchased before, but what other people are also purchasing at that same time.
Exactly.
Which is such an acute insight into how people think about, like, how people make decisions.
Yeah, I hear people today just open up the app just to check out what's happening on these apps.
Yeah.
Something curious happened. Somebody hit a 6. Somebody won a medal. They're just checking out these apps just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
And that's probably, the differentiating factor when it comes to quick commerce versus old commerce.
Yeah. So if you had to look at yourself either 10 years ago or 20 years ago, what advice would you give yourself for the design leader that you are today?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, focus on functional mastery. It's very important that you become master at what you do, because that's what builds the pillar for becoming the design leader. So I don't want to discount the fact that, okay, be more strategic, be more this thing. It's very important that you hone your mastery and make sure that you really have a functional mastery working for you, but also have a founder mindset, right? It's very important to be very curious, to ask for help and give help voluntarily.
Yeah.
It's very important. That's the only way you grow. That's the only way you get to engage, participate, and learn more, which I did terribly in my foundational years.
Right, so, really?
Yeah, in the sense, I actually feel I'm very late to some of these things because I was really excellent in my functional mastery. Nobody could beat me in my design progression, right? Literally, I was just, wherever I go, my aim is to be the best designer in the design team. Even till today, I feel that I can proudly say that I'm still holding on to that, a very good designer title. But I think it's also equally important to build a mindset to actually really move beyond just your functional mastery and to be able to carry a mindset of growth to carry a mindset of a founder, how they operate,
Yeah.
and pretty much be very reflective
Yeah.
and intentional about what you have to do. I mean, some of it sounds philosophical,
No,
but I
it's-
feel it's very important for me.
I agree. Absolutely. I think asking questions has been the most important thing for
Yeah.
me as a young designer,
Yeah.
where you can't survive without doing that.
And being reflective also.
And reflective,
Some
yeah.
of the questions, like how do you hold a bar to yourself? Sometimes that is more important than holding a bar for others. It's very easy to hold a bar
Yeah.
for others and say, okay, maybe this designer could have done that, that designer could have done that, or judge people based on their design philosophy or design outcomes, etc.
Yeah.
But to be able to hold the bar for yourself, hold the mirror for yourself, to be deeply self-respective and critical, vocally self-critical, to say, I have not done this enough in my life, or I don't have any rights to basically go and say, why is design not having a seat at the table? Why are design teams being given a mandate and not asked about what they want to do?
Yeah.
So all of it just comes from actually how you operate at a very foundational level, fundamental level. And I want to clarify by saying it's not about fluency in English or other things which is going to get you there.
Yeah.
I've seen many people without some of these things, right, get there.
Yeah.
They break barriers and they move on. It is all about the mindset. And it's very important to cultivate that mindset and to work on your leadership skills very early on.
Yeah.
Make these things very hard to unlearn and learn after you've gone too deep into your functional mastery, which is why some of the designers tend to stay as, there's nothing harm in that, by the way. There's great rewarding factor.
Yeah, but you get stuck.
You get
after
stuck
a
and
point.
eventually, it's not if you can't go ahead and lead and advocate and build a design culture deeper into the organization, then whatever mastery that you built is going to die with you. Right? So I think it's very important to do that. And that's an important advice that I would give, especially from the place that I come from and the mentality that I come from.
That's amazing. So this leads us to our final round, which is about AI. We want to quickly touch upon some thoughts that you would have on that. So Srinath, everyone is exploring AI tools. How have you explored AI as a design leader?
Great question. Obviously, for design, I've used it for generating content, for creating illustrations, graphics, UI per se. But beyond that, I want to highlight a very important aspect. Actually, design leadership coaching in general in India isn't that accessible yet. And design leadership coaching, you don't even have to begin there to start pointing problems. But for me, I think it's very transformational. So as a design leader, I've started now doing or exploring journaling, right? Which I've never done. Journaling is very taxing, boring. I used to do journaling on a travel because it's very visual and I can capture some vivid pictures or environments, etc. That's my only experience with journaling. Otherwise, I feel that journaling for self-development is very boring. But here you are, you suddenly have a technology which you can talk to, which you can dictate your daily experiences, your daily thoughts, emotions, and the situations and circumstances in which you applied yourself as a leader, and get actual feedback around where you are when it comes to anchoring on your design principle, design leadership, and how you deviated and what's the way to course correct. So that's an interesting way in which I'm using AI as it's made me very operationally efficient, in the sense that every day it knows my design principles, it has anchored me on my design principles, but I've taught it not to manipulate me, not to become an echo chamber. It's very important that it doesn't become an echo chamber. Right? The last thing that you want is just, AI is also talking the same mindsets, right? It's only noting down, it's only charting and giving me feedback on what are the things that I wanted to do, what I deviate from, and what do I need to do tomorrow. So it's become a habit for me. I don't do it every day these days once I started fixing some of the problems that I had. But whenever I have a very core fundamental problem, right, or something that I need to do continuously for the next 1 month or 2 months or something, then I go back to the solution. So that's a very interesting way in which I've used
it is.
AI.
I don't think I've heard that yet from a design leader. So that's really cool. And I think you're just making yourself so much more stronger in how you want to approach the way you think about design.
Absolutely. So everyday morning check-ins are literally in my car when I'm driving, and it already anchors me on my design principle. like how I operate as a leader, and what do I need to do to become even more effective.
Nice.
Right. So and at the end of the day, when I'm actually sharing some of these thoughts, it's again mapping to some of these things and say, okay, well done on some of these aspects. Other aspects you need to improve, and it's very rewarding.
Yeah. Talking more about AI, which I'm very, very curious about, is where do you think, how do you think AI is going to play a role when it comes to ordering food or daily essentials?
Yeah, I have a contrarian take. I don't think it will be ordering anymore. So that's a bleak future for for us, but which is also exciting because see, at the end of the day, I mean, it's about that, right? Like, AI can already sort of assume and be able to predict and be able to give convenience, right? Like, and that's the brilliant distant future that we've been all dreaming about.
Yeah.
And if that becomes reality, I'll be more than happy. But I feel AI is going there.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
I feel you're being very humble about this because the amount of times you guys have innovated at every step of the way. I think when something new comes, you all are like, I can imagine sleeping on my bed and be going hey Swiggy, can I order some momos? And
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to obviously happen.
Yeah.
That is very obvious future. That is not probably the ultimate use of AI.
Yeah.
Right?
There's more.
That's a very, I don't know.
Simple thought.
Yeah, it's a very, it should happen immediately.
Yeah.
I think it should happen in the next 1 year is what my prediction is. That you should be able to say, hey Swiggy, order my usual coffee. And it should already know that you usually order your coffee from probably Third Wave or Starbucks, and you usually like it in a mocha or something.
Yeah, the skim milk or sugar. It knows.
It already knows. It knows that you are most likely ordering from your workplace. So I think it's a evening coffee time. Should be delivering at that point in time. This is a given.
Yeah.
It has to happen.
Yeah.
There is no other. I would be really disappointed with me and for customers if they don't get this convenience very soon.
Yeah.
But beyond that also, I think we have to imagine what this is going to do, and it's going to be massive.
All right. Thank you, Srinath. That was amazing. But it's not over yet. We have this thing called Chop Round at Pineapple, where we quickly ask you a series of 5 questions, and you just have to answer them either in 1 or 2 words. So you'll have to really, and you have to be super fast at it also.
Can I say pass?
No.
Pass is not an answer. Okay.
That's not an option.
All right, cool.
All right. So we're going to go really quickly.
Yeah.
We're going to start with the first question.
Yeah.
What's one product you wish you had designed or built?
Obviously Airbnb for me.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. What's harder to coach, taste or accountability?
Actually, accountability.
Right. What does your design team not like about you? One thing.
I'm roaming around in their files always. My pointer in Figma is something that they don't like. I guess. I don't know.
Give us all this and Srinath.
And he is also rude in the way I'm commenting. Actually, I don't even put a comment. Okay.
You're like,
I'm literally including and slash and then start typing as a live comment. That's one part I think.
I can imagine all the mouses going into around you and going like, "Aresko reply kaise kare?"
Exactly.
What is one trait in designers you dislike?
That's very hard, actually.
Are there many?
Yeah, there are many traits. I mean, like, how can I name
Top
one?
trait.
Top trait that I dislike.
Yeah.
That I feel they're too emotional about everything.
Defensive.
They're very defensive, yeah.
A creative ritual you never skip.
Inspiration. So I like to get inspired. And my day begins and ends with a lot of inspiration. There used to be a time where whether it is product, going into magic patterns or going into websites for inspiration, I just browse 10 pages, not one.
How?
Although I've looked at it, I looked at it over and over. Pinterest is a big source of inspiration, anything that I do.
It's the best source.
Yeah, Pinterest is the best source. I mean, you just tell it what you want and it just floods you with inspiration. So I think inspiration is one important trait, because inspiration also can lead you to visually capture or viscerally capture the things that you love the most. It's more satisfactory in that way, and pretty much it builds you from within, right? And your everyday intent, everything is getting shaped through that inspiration.
Yeah.
So that is the driving force for me. So I can't skip that ritual.
Thank God that was the last question because you went on and on.
And of course, craft also.
Chop, khatam ho gaya.
You can cut it out if you want.
I think I had the most amazing time interviewing you. Thank you
Pleasure.
so much for coming on our podcast, Srinath. It's an honor. And I can't wait for people to see how amazing this whole session has been.
Thank you. Thanks to Pineapple Design Studio for inviting me. I had a lovely time.
Thank you.
Thank you.